Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Ian, and I'm reading stories from over 50 years ago. Because I think that today's information is sort of exaggerated. Um, if you like these stories, um, I'll ask you to subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing plenty more with a bit of luck. Um, and if you like what I'm doing, please press the like button. Thank you. I'll start now. Anyway, I'll read three stories today, um, from the 1970s, which was true to form from that day. So this one is about treasure. It's called Guardian of the Treasure. Somewhere in the Richtersveld, an area of scrubland in the middle of South Africa, is a cavern which, according to legend, is crammed with diamonds. There is only one problem: the cavern is guarded by the Grootslang, or Great Snake of the Orange River, a fearsome 40-foot long serpent with enormous gems in its eye sockets. Guides are reluctant to take expeditions to the cavern, known as the Wonder Hole or Bottomless Pit. Only one man, a tough prospector, is said to have tried to explore the hole, which local tribes say is connected to the sea 40 miles away. He used a winch and cable to reach the ledge far below. Tunnels led off the ledge, and there was a strong smell of sulphur. He dropped his electric torch when bats flew in his face, and he was all back to the surface. He did not try again. Some travellers claim to have caught glimpses of the Grootslang, and reports of sightings occasionally appear in South African newspapers. Witnesses confirm the beast's length as 40 foot long and tell of 3 foot wide tracks in the muddy banks of the Orange River. A party of prospectors once followed the track for miles before it finally disappeared into the river. The natives say that the Grootslang is a spirit snake, and anyone who encounters it is overcome by a sense of evil. Does a giant snake live in the Orange River country? If so, it could only be a python, and although it is not impossible that one of these reptiles might attain a length of 40 foot, it is fairly unlikely. The longest African python reliably recorded was 32 feet, but this was a freak. Pythons 25 foot long have been shot in the area, and one of these, if seen at close quarters, would be sufficiently alarming to make exaggeration understandable. However, the natives maintain there is only one Grootslang, and that's the one about the snake. This one is about possession and foxes. When your home is possessed by foxes. People who suddenly start to overeat, talk gibberish and fret about whether their face is getting longer may be possessed by goblin foxes. At least that's what is widely believed. That is the widely believed Japanese theory. Stories of these goblin foxes are popular throughout Japan, and there are even present-day reports of people being possessed or taken over by them. Families in some rural areas are said to keep foxes for practicing sorcery against the less well-equipped members of the community. In 1963, the priest of a temple near Totore described how to identify families keeping foxes. It is easy, he said. You can see the foxes sitting in rows along the eaves, shading their eyes with their paws or playing together in front of the house. People buying a fox owner's property inherit a stigma of being involved in such fearful behaviour, and purchasers are hard to find even when prices have tumbled to rock bottom. The treatment for possession is a drastic one. Within living memory, a woman was treated by having all food stopped, pepper sprinkled in her eyes, nose and mouth, are rubbed down with red-hot sticks, and holes bored in her breast and abdomen. Whether the treatment was successful is not known, as the patient died within 3 days. That's another one. That was interesting. I'll read another one now, called Man's Best Friends. a nation that even looks like dogs, this one says. Many owners are proud of their pet's pedigree, but the Coniagas, a tribe of North American Indians, trace their own pedigree back to a dog, and the legend of a breed of men with dogs' heads is a recurring one in many different civilizations. One of the best accounts in the medieval writings of Sir John Mandeville, men go by the sea ocean by many isles until an isle that is clept, that means called, Nakumera. That is a good isle and fair. And this is encompass about more than 1,000 miles, and all the men and women of the Isle of Hounds heads, and they are clept cynocephalus, Greek for dogs' heads. Marco Polo said these people lived in the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal, but the whole idea of dogmen probably grew out of early sightings of baboons, which are projecting dog-like muzzles. Pictures of St. Christopher in Eastern art sometimes show him with a dog's head. According to legend, he was unusually handsome, and because he was constantly pestered by a woman, he prayed to be given a dog's head as protection. It is possible that the tale originated in early Christian times when the Egyptian cult of the dog-headed god Anubis may have been confused with stories of St. Christopher. Right, that's that one. This one's called, this is a big word now. I'll tell you what, let's go for this one. This is called Kalikantzaroi. It's a word that came from the Greeks, which means unpleasant goblins. It used to be, so I'll start now. It used to be a serious matter for Greek couples to have a child born at Christmas. Although Christmas itself was a happy time, it meant that the baby had been conceived on March the 25th, the feast of the Annunciation, when the angel told Mary that she would bear Jesus. Great care was needed to stop such a baby becoming a Kalikantzaroi, a Kalikanzaros or goblin. It might have to be strapped up with garlic. An even less pleasant charm was to singe its toenails, but then these goblins are singularly unpleasant. Some are so tall that their loins are level with the rooftops. They have big heads and in general are black and hairy, with bloodshot eyes and long curved nails. Fortunately, they are occupied for most of the year, hacking away with axes at the tree which holds up the world. But each year, just as they are about to chop the tree down, the birthday of Christ comes round again, and the tree miraculously renews itself. The goblins get into a terrible rage and rush out above ground level to create havoc for the 12 days of Christmas. During the day they hide in damp, dirty places, making their meals of snake and worms. But once it is dark, they emerge to swarm down chimneys and wreck houses, tearing to pieces anyone they meet. To stop them, Greeks still hang a pig's jaw in the house or throw an old shoe on the fire. The smell puts them off. That's another one. Let me see if I can find one more. This one's a good one. This is called Hunting the Yeti. Bear in mind these are from the 70s. These are all accurately true from the 70s. I'll start with this one. This will be my last one. In every mountain range in the world there are stories of a strange, shambling, man-like creature of footprints too large to become any human, of isolated communities living in fear of a monster that goes by many names. In the Himalayas he is called the Yeti. Elsewhere in Asia, from the Gobi Desert to the north to Assam in the south, he goes by the name of Meti, Shukpa, Migo or Kangmi. To people living in remote wooded parts of the American Northwest, he is Bigfoot. In the foothills of the Canadian Rockies, he is known as Sasquatch. Whatever the name, the description is roughly the same. Height up to 10 feet, weight about 300 pounds, appearance hairy and ape-like, but walks upright on two legs, species unknown. Seen in 1832, this one. In one form or another, yetis have been in and out of the public eye since as long ago as 1832, when Nepal's first British resident, B.H. Hodgson, described a hitherto unknown creature which moved erectly, was covered in long dark hair and had no tail. But it was not until 1951 when the British mountaineer Eric Shipton published a series of photographs of humanoid footprints, 13 inches long and 8 inches wide, taken in the Gauri Sankar range of the Himalayas, that the Yeti, or abominable snowman, became an international household name. Shipton said the tracks were too large to have been made by a bear and too fresh to have been enlarged by melting. What really made my flesh creep, he added, was that where we had to jump crevasses, you could see where the creature had dug its toes in. Yeti hunting became a popular pastime. Sherpas were happy to relate stories of these giant creatures to the mountains and monasteries in many parts of the Himalayas. Turned up bones, skin, scalps of alleged yetis. A conical scalp from Kumjung village in Nepal was triumphantly displayed in the West, but it was analysed as skin and hair similar to that of a Nepalese goat. No one has ever managed to capture a yeti, but the clues continue to accumulate year after year. In 1948, a Norwegian uranium prospector, Jan Frostis, claimed he was attacked and his shoulder badly mauled by one of two yetis he encountered near Zemu Gap in the Himalayan state of Sikkim. A fragment of skin, the joint of an index finger and a thumb from a mummified hand, were found at Pangbosh, Nepal in the 1950s. It was thought by some zoologists and anthropologists to be almost human and similar in some respects to that of Neanderthal man. Thomas Slick, a Texas oilman who co-sponsored a 1957 Yeti hunt, was told by scores of Nepalese villagers that Yetis had battered to death at least 5 people in the preceding 4 years. An expedition, sponsored by the London Daily Mail, found footprints and droppings which, when analysed, were found to contain the diet of a creature which, like man, lived on part animal, part vegetable matter. One theory about Yetis is that they could be descendants of Gigantopithecus, a prehistoric giant ape, remains of which were found by Dutch paleontologist Ralph von Koningswald. In the 1930s, Van Koningswald found teeth in various parts of Asia which would have belonged to an ape between 11 and 13 foot tall. It has been argued that if giant apes such as these could not compete for survival with man in the forest, they may have taken to remote mountainous areas to avoid annihilation. Skeptics have pointed out that the clues such as teeth could be left by bears, langur monkeys, Himalayan foxes, grey wolves or snow leopards. Others have suggested that yetis are hallucinations caused by lack of oxygen at high altitudes, but not all the evidence has been satisfactorily dismissed, nor have the skeptics been able to explain the sightings of similar creatures in the American Northwest. Literally hundreds of sightings reports have poured in to Canadian newspapers and broadcasting stations. In 1973, a Canadian publishing company offered a $100,000 reward to anyone who could bring in a Sasquatch alive. In 1967, rancher Roger Patterson of Yakima, Washington, shot 29 foot of 16mm film of a tall hairy creature walking upright 125 yards away across a creek near Eureka, California. He got a blurred brief sequence of the animal, a female with pendulous breasts, taking long strides, swinging its arms and turning briefly to look at the camera before disappearing into the woods. Recently, Bigfoot, as Californians call him, seemed to have put in appearances in southern Illinois. From Murfreesboro, a small community on the banks of the Big Muddy River, came reports of a huge ape-like creature. At midnight on June 25th, 1973, a couple sitting in a parked car heard weird shrieks from nearby woods. Lumbering toward them came an 8-foot figure, covered in light-coloured hair and matted with mud. The couple drove off and reported the incident to the police. Other sightings of what became known as the Murfreesboro Mud Monster followed. 2 teenagers said it smelled like foul river slime. Wow. Workers on a nearby fairground said they saw the monster gazing at some tethered ponies. Police Chief Toby Berger ordered searches, but all that was found was a trail of crushed glass, broken trees, and gobs of black slime. Tony Stevens, editor of the Southern Illinoisan, said, "This is no hoax. This is hunting country, and anyone who goes around in an animal costume is going to get his butt shot off." The mystery remains. From the Himalayas to the Rockies, from the Gobi Desert to southern Illinois, there have been also reports of ape-like hairy men in regions of South Africa and South America. The legend of wild half-men is universal, reaching from the satyrs and centaurs of Greek mythology to Tarzan and similar heroes of modern fiction. Harlan Sorkin, an expert in yeti lore from St. Louis, Missouri, believes that the creature is the result of a gene deviation in a species of large ape. He comments, the gorilla was not discovered until the early 1800s. Can you imagine what people thought when they first saw it? Right, that's the last one for today. So I hope you enjoyed these stories, and I'll be back in a couple of days time. So please can I ask you to subscribe to my channel. I'm just a beginner, but I like doing this, and to be honest, I don't like over embellished information. So I thought I'd put some true stuff out from a long time ago, so that you can see. You might even be able to pick out differences if you want to. So anyway, I'll ask you to please subscribe and like my channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.